We're live? Yes, we are live. Open Class Doodles, episode 42, the COACHMC studio. Welcome back, actors, creators, performers, creative heads, visionaries, artists, all sorts of crazy folks out there that are interested in the matter of performance, of mental enlightenment, right? And also artistic guidance a little bit, and also hanging out with a great community and talking about really cool subjects. Welcome back to Open Class Doodles, Tactical Doodles for Success. Today, we're going to explore the most creative towns in the world, how we can relate to that, how can we define a town being creative or not, what are the measurements, what are the requirements for a city to be considered truly creative, to stand out, to be a pole, a magnet, a black hole, right, for our creators to kind of suck in all the juicy and critical mass, right? And do we need to move to these towns, and what can we learn from them, and much, much more. So welcome back to another epic episode of Open Class Doodles, and let's dive right into today's topic, because as performers, creators, and entertainers nowadays, in the in the age of digital revolution, of course, we can be creative all over the world. We have digital nomads. We can travel. We can explore all sorts of networks. And so, being informed also about where we can potentially go, or where we can, for a while, let's say, kind of get new input for our creative endeavors, could be a game changer in terms of creating your own style, your own art, and fletching out a very remarkable, valuable product. Because in the end, this is what we do over here at the COACHMC studio. We really try to shape unique behavior deliveries. We try to give you the most potent, the most effective, the most impactful tools and ideas, right? And inspirational, nuggets here and there, in order to really stand out in the audition room, no matter where the audition takes place, no matter what you're auditioning for. It's about communicating your ideas, your value proposition in the most remarkable way. And without any further ado, let's jump in today's episode, and let's see what's cooking. Now, right off the bat, of course, you might ask, well, how can we establish that? How can we know if a town is creative? Like, if it's worth, kind of moving there, or if I can find my creative world there, my universe. Well, there are some, of course, some vectors. There are some ways of establishing, determining whether or not a town is attractive for artists, for creators, for creative people, actors, comedians, painters, etc. Right? And I found this article and was really intrigued by it, and I want to share with you some informations today that I think are really interesting. So right off the bat, I just want to say thank you so much for all the listeners and viewers of today's episode. And of course, tomorrow we're going to have Three Sages and a Time Machine happening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with another very interesting and mysterious episode of how we, look into the past, uncovering the mysteries of history. And on Thursday, you're gonna have me here at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then, of course, Saturday, we're guest at the Saturday Night Hypnosis. So you have plenty of opportunities and possibilities to catch me here on YouTube. And we're, of course, also trying to always increase the quality of the program and give you everything. But we have a beautiful agency. We work with many creators, and so therefore YouTube is just an extension of our thoughts and of the experience that we accumulate on a daily basis. And we think some of the stuff is truly valuable, and so therefore, let us know, guys. Hey, John, thank you so much. Hello, Coach. It's good to see you too. Yeah, last week we've been traveling all over the globe. Alessandra and I, we've been, her sister was getting married, and we had to kind of fly over Istanbul. And so it was quite a trip. And so therefore we had also to travel to the countryside, wedding, of course, also organizing a couple of things. So there was literally no time to go online and talk to you guys. So definitely sorry for just hitting you with one episode. Hey, Raven Wolf. Definitely also. Hey, Ravenwolf. So, like I was explaining, yeah, last week was crazy because I was, up in the air the whole time in Italy. And when I came back, I had to kind of catch up with all the work. So that's why I missed Tangent King, and because the episode came into when I was still kind of, working up my week, and then there was a client, and so all of a sudden, I had to choose. I'm sorry, I had to choose between money between money and you guys. Thank you. No. But you know how it is. So work is work, and so therefore, and there are some clients that are just you can't say no to them, and so it kind of happened. But I know you guys had a great episode. I definitely look forward in joining you guys and the madness, and of course digging into those juicy topics and having a lot of fun. Absolutely. So let's dive in today's madness as well. And let's look at something, because I was really, when we're thinking about, producing the content for you guys, it's always getting, inspired, always trying to kind of, see the big picture, because we know as artists, it can be difficult at times, right? Sometimes we have dry periods. Sometimes we have to push through moments of rejections and, continuous no's and stuff like that. And we of course we're frustrated, besides of course that we need to make an income, right? And so this is always to go to just saying that everything happens in this perspective. We are so focused on us, and therefore we put a lot of pressure, a lot of load, a lot of judgment on ourselves. And if we sometimes zoom out, right, from the big picture, and we see how other folks live, how they create, how they communicate, how they build up their legacy, that helps us also to understand, hey, look, process is difficult everywhere. It's always the same game that you have to play, and every time we're talking about professional endeavor and creative endeavor, artistic endeavor, we're talking about oscillations. We need to oscillate. We need to have high peaks of good, great, wonderful performances, and then also we need sometimes to fail, kind of getting rejected, and kind of pushing those through those dry moments in order to understand how resilient we are, how determined we are, how how much we really love what we're doing. Sometimes these tests are healthy. So to give you perspective on those beautiful moments in life during the artistic journey, and also to understand how other towns are kind of operating and giving you, some insight. That's why we thought this episode might be a nice addition to what we usually do over here, where we, usually try to give you more like, these future outlooks and interesting stories. Here it is about you understanding that you are the future, you are the interesting story, and there is no reason to believe that someone else is better just because of his location or anything else. Every environment can be in a way also recreated and reestablished for yourself. You just need to understand how to transform your environment. And I will share some of really cool stories that we're also having with our clients. Beautiful, very powerful stories also that kind of show how it is possible actually to create that, right? But let's go into a very interesting statistic that I kind of found, and I don't know, it's a statistic, an article. It's definitely something very, very interesting. So on inkfi.com, we have the world's most creative cities. In a planet filled with so much beauty and diversity, it's not hard to find creativity and inspiration in some of the world's most notable cities. In fact, some cities have made a name for themselves in the world of art, music, architecture, and other creative ventures. We wanted to find out which is the most creative, so we took a look at a selection of inspirational factors such as the number of art galleries, the popularity of street art, and even the hometowns of some of the biggest music artists in the world. So if you're looking for a touch, bada boom, bada bum, now let's see how they kind of elaborate, how they corroborate this list based on these factors that I find really interesting, and I kind of can go with it before disclosing, the cities themselves, right? So they say one of the key factors is, of course, the number of street art Instagram posts. which it was the first thing that they mentioned. It's kind of interesting, right? Raven Whippet French. I used to live in Paris. Oh yes. Paris is it's an interesting town, really. So let's go in here what they say. So the number of street Instagram posts, art Instagram posts, the monthly street art searchers, so people that are on the street performing street art, all sorts of, mimes, clowns, musical artists, of course, painters, all sorts of crafts people that sell all sorts of products and garments. So number of hometown music artists, number of art galleries per square miles, number of theaters per square miles, number of music clubs. And I mean, that makes totally sense, right? How many art galleries do we find, per square mile? Do we have a huge, accumulation of artists, of displays, of exhibition? Do we have like a notable number of different art that is being displayed? Theaters, of course, as well, because that kind of implements, if I have galleries that are filled and we have a lot of theaters and we have a lot of music clubs, that means that we have a constant flow of artists coming in, serving these venues, right? These ventures. And so there is a huge volume of not only requests, but also of people that are practicing the art or maybe are living there. And so therefore you can deduct from that there's many creative people in that field active. Number of comedy clubs per square miles, noteworthy architectural buildings per square miles. That's interesting as well. Do we have a lot of monuments, a lot of interesting, imposing, beautiful buildings that are getting pictured, that are inspirational for painters, for drawers, for all sorts of people, and attract a lot of diversity, tourists, a lot of people that come together? Of course, that makes sense. And number of monuments and statues per square miles. So that's an interesting list. It's definitely, I could work with that. Like, say, if I cover this, if I cover these 3, 6, 9, 10 points per 100,000 people, I could definitely say, yes, this is a major factor for defining the creativity of a town. And so so the first 3, the winner is Paris, second town is Barcelona, and the third town is Dublin, which I find really interesting. And of course, a town like Paris is right there in on the number 1 spot, because you have an enormous amount of Instagram posts that are coming from Paris, or where Paris is tagged. Which on one hand also shows us, if you guys are, in big towns, and there is the chance that you might be discovered if you, shoot, interesting Instagram posts, because this is where, most search, words are being placed, and therefore there is a higher chance for you to getting like noticed on, online. But compared to Barcelona, that is on the second position as being the most creative town in the world, it's almost like, it's the 6th part. Paris has 824,000 Instagram posts calling out on their name, and Barcelona is just 140 roughly. So you see how powerful first the digital medium is, and that it is not necessarily a factor of having some of these requirements or not. It's how you create attention to yourself. And this is something that we've been saying on the channel on and on and on. Ravenwolf, that's because the French are artistic and love life and show beauty and everything. I agree. No, also the interesting factor that the first 3 positions on the world scale of being the most creative towns in the world are European towns, and then we have London. I can show you it's on the 4th place. But let's zoom out really quick and let's take a look. So from the 1st to the 10th position, we have Paris, European town, Barcelona, Dublin, London, Tel Aviv is on 5th, and then we have New York City on 6th, Milan, Italian town, again, a European town on 7th. And then we have LA. And I think as a new entry, Miami on the 9th position before Porto in Portugal. That's a super interesting list right here. And I want to break down a little bit these factors that they put together to kind of explore what are the potential creative herds of these cities and how do they thrive and what are they interested in, because these towns are also they are trendsetters. They are creating the trends of the future. They are creating what's going to be worn, what's going to be listened to, what's going to be also political, what's going to be trends in fashion. So these are towns that are giving you already an impulse on how the development itself, whether it's art or in the arts fields, is going to be interesting to kind of observe that, how that kind of aligns. I believe in the 60s, we had towns like London being the undisputed number one, right? London right now is on the 4th position behind Dublin. But if you think of the 60s, London was like a major hub for music, for creativity, for fashion, for all sorts of videography, photography, filmmaking. It was just crazy. And this is also a little problem that I have with the list in itself. It is interesting to put it that way and to kind of analyze creativity that way. But where are the filmmakers? For example, we have all sorts of, if you think of breakdance, if you think of all the hip hop culture, all these breakaway civilizations in terms of talent and and art that they create in their universe, and of course with the others as well. So I'm not totally, because filmmaking is a notable creative task, right? But let's go on. So Paris has 5,100 monthly street art searchers. The number of hometown music artists is just 5 in Paris, which okay. Number of art galleries in square miles is it's 4.3. This is a pretty huge number. If you ask me, it's like 4 galleries on a square mile on average is a huge number. So there are many artists, there's a lot of expositions, there's a lot of shows. This is definitely interesting, right? And 3.5 is the number of theaters per square miles. It's also not too bad, not too shabby, compared also to Barcelona and Dublin and London. As well as Tel Aviv and even New York City and Milan. Paris is leading number of theaters per square miles. So if you're happening to be an actor and this is your passion, maybe France is the land to where you want to go. You have a number of theater per square miles. It's pretty impressive that you find in Paris. I think the most surprising town being here in the top 3, to me at least, it was Dublin. And I asked myself, like, what makes Dublin in the end really so creative? And they say that, compared to, we have the same number of hometown music artists, which is hard to believe. According to their statistic, they say that Dublin doesn't have more than Paris. Somehow I doubt. I mean, there's so many good music artists in Dublin. But what really stands out over here is the fact that Dublin has a pretty high score overall, like with all these things, whether it's theaters, whether it's galleries, whether it's stand-up, a number of monuments. And of course I knew Dublin is a center of cool art. I mean, so many great bands, legendary stuff has come out of Dublin, but I never assumed it to be on such a high position. And another surprise, definitely, to have in the top 10 now finally, is actually not a surprise. Living in Miami, kind of realizing how much diversified the cultural scope here is amazing. We have so many, cultures coming together. Everyone is here with its craft, with its colors, with its interest. You have COACHMC Miami, which is, of course, it's a little bit of a touristy area, but that doesn't mean that they're not producing cool stuff. You find music all over town. You have Wynwood, which is a huge art hub. I mean, yes, it has been, gentrified a little bit. You see a lot of new blocks building there, and of course, some real estate speculation. But overall, You know, you have graffiti all over the place. It's very well organized. You have a great museum there. You have Art Basel hitting town, which is definitely one of the reasons why Miami's up there. It's a beautiful town that features a lot of Instagram posts, you know, compared to Milan, even, you know, I mean, Miami boasts 20,000 more, you know, valuable art Instagram posts. So that's it's also interesting. And you have definitely like a very good mixture of comedy clubs. We have Manny Garavito over here that does like a great job, you know, connecting also the people, networking. We have huge, you know, stand-up guys coming down here, having a lot of shows during the week. So it is getting bigger and bigger. Design District is an interesting place where we have incredible shops and galleries there too. So, and in South Florida, generally, I would say if you go to West Palm Beach, which is, you know, it's the billionaires' row for galleries. In West Palm Beach, you have an incredible amount of very wealthy galleries exposing some of the world's finest art, as well as, you know, all over the place down here in South Florida. Boca Raton, you have great galleries in Del Rey, you have great galleries in Naples. It's very interesting how it kind of is shifting. And Miami is before, it's right there, right? Before nobody expected it, but now I think this melting pot has, you know, is becoming something very interesting and very vibrant, and is on the verge of developing its own style, which is always important for a town. Tel Aviv, also a town that has, like you can see here, a lot of galleries. I'm not surprised at all. Of course, we know the Jewish community there are great in art, and they have a notable amount of galleries in New York City. They're very influential also with gold and diamonds. And here we have Tel Aviv, the town in the top 5 that has the, you know, the highest number per square mile in terms of 100,000 people of, you know, galleries. So yes, I've been listening. I've been, there's like, Tel Aviv is an interesting mixture because it's right there on the Levant. It's the access gate to the Arabic, but also to the Minor Asia world. It has huge influential people there, a lot of money. It's beautifully boasted on the Mediterranean side. It's a good living there, and yeah, I'm not surprised it's up there with the most creative towns in the world. A lot of fashion designers in Tel Aviv, as we know. Here, this is interesting. The number of music clubs, jazz clubs, blues clubs, piano bars, country, and Western bars, right? So we have, again, Dublin is in the top 3, is the most notable one that kind of, you know, kind of peaks out here, and is also the town that is, you know, in general, I think, yeah, then it's, so Dublin has the highest accumulation, the highest density of music clubs in the top 10 list, in the top 20 list of the most creative towns in the world. So for musicians, that's why I'm surprised that, you know, the number of artists are the same. Again, this is something that bothers me, but yeah, maybe because of the bigger record companies being in Paris, of course. Barcelona is an incredible town. Let me just, why is Barcelona so creative? Again, it's the Mediterranean. They're close to the sea, right next to the sea. It's beautiful climate throughout the year. They revolutionized, they completely cleaned the town. Like until the 90s, the whole harbor, whole beach section that you see right now, that is beautiful with hotels and fancy bars and beautiful beaches. It was like a rundown industrial area. They completely revolutionized the town. And it's a town that loves architecture, that loves beautiful shapes, that loves also, they are very curious. I mean, if you think of Salvador Dali or Gaudi, these are, of course, the most prominent, you know, pieces that you know, come to mind when you think about Barcelona. Fuentes, the town where Dali has its, you know, workshop and its gallery there is very close to Barcelona. So he was one of the people there. And if you go to, of course, the Sagrada Familia, it's an incredible church. It's absolutely it's absolutely unique in its own kind. It defies also the rules, if you want to call them so, of architecture in a way of how to kind of build a church. So if you see here, these towns, top 4, right? They feature a lot of those churches, they feature a lot of those statues, they feature a lot of these, city, kind of cuts where you have a nice density, a nice accumulation of monuments, art, beautiful shapes and forms, great architecture, imposing cathedrals, all that. When all that comes together for the eye, that's of course, something that motivates you and animates you as an artist. Yes, great food as well. You have great food in Paris. I mean, I'm Italian, guys, so I'm not gonna lie. To me, Italian cuisine is superior to any cuisine in terms of just the immense amount and diversity of cheese variations, of ham variations, meat variations that we have in Italy. We outplay France. By miles when it comes down to, whether it's the amount of red wine they produce, cheese that we produce, olive oil that we produce. And we have such a variety also through the Mediterranean of different influences from, even from the Arabic world in our kitchen, our cuisine, that is nowhere present anywhere. And so I think Italian cuisine, also, if you go to the great restaurants, to the, 3-star Michelin star, 2 Michelin star, venues in Paris, it's all Italian cooks, right? Ducasse, La Salle, Pavillon, these are all Italian chefs working there. It's all Italian, like, craftsmanship. Of course, the raffinesse of the French cuisine is undisputed. There is no doubt about it. They have some very interesting things that they prepare, but Italian cuisine, to me, as an Italian, I mean, of course, it's the best in the world. I think that helps too. Definitely, great food helps to be inspired, to feel well, even if you don't have a lot of money. If you have something that kind of nourishes you and it's tasting good, it definitely is help. But I wonder if we can get that in Dublin. No offense here intended, but I don't know if the food in Dublin and London, I was in London a couple of times, I also worked there very quickly, and I have to say, yes, of course you have Michelin star restaurants there, but the food in general in Great Britain, it's not my favorite. It's not my favorite cuisine. It's not my favorite kitchen, even though Jamie Oliver, Gordon Ramsay, there are some very valuable exponents that have made a name for themselves. But if you look at them in the end, they cook a lot of French and Italian stuff as well. So it is the mixture that creates that. And also, just coming back to what's the mission here? It is to understand where creativity comes from, to learn from these statistics. So ask yourself, if you're an artist, a creator yourself, is like, how do you want to position yourself? Where do you want to live? How do you want to surround yourself with the things that that really matter to you? Because if you want to be creative, you need to be surrounded by creativity as well. You need to immerse yourself in creativity. And if you don't have such a great town like Paris or Dublin or London or Rome or Milan or even Tokyo, I'm wondering why not Tokyo is on the list. I mean, Tokyo is, it's, according to these parameters, Tokyo wouldn't be in here in the top 10, even though we know Tokyo is an incredibly creative town, right? So it's you creating those microsystems, those ecosystems, those biospheres of creativity where you can immerse yourself, detach from the outside noise, and really get inspired, and at the same time have an effective translation of that inspiration, aka put those good thoughts to paper, to an audio track, put those good thoughts on a canvas, on a self-tape, right? Kind of translating that inspiration, that critical mass, that steam into traction as well, and not just observing it, right? That's so important. I feel, and I understand that a lot of artists out there who are maybe living on the countryside or just more in rural, parts of their respective, places they are, their nations where they live. We need acknowledgement as artists. We are sensitive, sensible little boys and girls, and we want a pat on our back, and everything is all right, and be acknowledged and recognized for our art. And if we live in a way a bit more far out there, and you don't have access to these rural, to these big urban networks, it's daunting sometimes to continue believing in yourself if there is not a lot of feedback happening. But of course, we have all sorts of incredible tools that are available online networks that we can create there. And we are also going to look into a few examples how you can be outside of those big hubs, still creative and successful and kind of fulfilling your artistic purpose without, the big noise and, the constant, hustle, of course, that is very fatiguing and it is very draining that we have, all to face, right? If we're living in those big hubs, most likely our lives are expensive and we need, a huge amount of energy, or at least a, robust amount of energy in order to cover those costs and then have time to focus on what's actually essential, which, sometimes can drain us, especially if we don't have like a partner that helps or supports us, or if we're not a very supportive environment, right? So kind of looking out for those is also part of our journey, guys. We have to face, this inevitable, epiphany that art is a collaboration. It's a collective process, even though it's super individual and super private and ultra intimate at the same time. It needs to be shared and displayed. Otherwise, it's not art. It's just therapy. So our mission is also to connect. Let's jump into another article that I found that to me was really interesting, with some interesting numbers as well. So here we're exploring on contemporaryartissue.com, the top 30 art cities, where it is, where it is most likely for you as an artist to succeed, to get exposure, recognition, and leads, networks, and everything, in order to keep your career going. And so art cities, this article is from October 20th, 2023, so it's quite recent. Art cities are cultural centers where artists, galleries, collectors, education institutions meet, making them true hotspots of the art world. So here, of course, it is a bit more art focused, and compared to the statistic that we just saw, that was based more on, the density of galleries and monuments and places where people can connect. Here we have more like a focus and the emphasis of looking, hey, how can those collectors, those educational institutions, and those centers help artists to kind of flock together, come together, and collaborate and live more as a collective, and of course benefit from that. A common question among artists if they have to move to a big city in order to become successful artists, and if so, what are the best cities to live and work as an artist? In this article, bada boom, bada bum. So it is safe to say that living in an art city is beneficial for the artist's career. Okay, sure. No, really? Come on, don't say so. But here's also a thing to say. Art, like I said, is also an intimate process, and it needs to be respected in its way of how it develops for yourself. And sometimes we just need more time as artists. If that there is just inevitably, if we really want to create something amazing, we have different ways of getting there. And some people are faster. They figure it out very quickly. They had better help, or they're just more inclined. And sometimes we need more time. It's just the assembly line is not always equally distant. It's not always equally long, right? And therefore, patience, resilience, and consistency is a key factor here in order to understand it's not a speed race. It's more like a marathon. And even though I understand it can be frustrating if you're maybe of more an advanced age and you still haven't completely figured out what your core creative value proposition is all about, time is not of a matter here. It's the quality, it's the style, it's the uniqueness. Once you have fleshed that out, it is most likely that the audience will come, that you attract them automatically, because everything that has novelty, that is unique, that has an undistinguishable touch, your signature on it, it will create a market for itself. That's the blue ocean theory. We talked about this on the channel as well. Highly recommend you to read the book. It's just an eye, mind, heart opener to understanding that you are the creator of the market. And sometimes, yes, those market creation processes and operations, they take a while longer. But hey, as long as you can live, as long as everything is affordable, as long as you're in the flow and you're healthy, don't bail, don't exit the train. Stay there, don't worry. Sometimes it just takes a bit longer, and that's okay, because it's just the universe telling you, by the longer process, you will just be more confident, more sure, and better, and therefore the quality will be just more outstanding. I just want you to provide you with the best quality, because that is then ultimately the key factor whether or not you have success as an artist, right? So bigger cities naturally have a larger sales market, sure. A population of more than 1 million will have more art collectors than a hamlet with less than 1,000 inhabitants, sure. Therefore, art markets and entities ranging from art galleries to auction houses are located in specific districts. The latest art market report from 2023 from UBS and Art Basel. UBS is an insurance company. Well, they are a monolithic giant, but yeah, insurance company from Switzerland. And Art Basel illustrated once more the importance of local private collectors, representing a whopping 50% of the share of all dealer sales. More people, more collectors, more galleries, more opportunities, and sales to make a living as an artist. Absolutely. I've seen this many times. I've talked to many also during the discovery session. We have something called the discovery session, by the way. Yes, it's on readytoperform.com. If you have an artistic endeavor, if you have a great, cool, very enticing and intriguing project ahead of you that somehow involves art and communication, like a self-tape, like an audition that you have to prepare, like a great negotiation that is about to start, a great and powerful presentation that you have in mind, whatever it is, and you're still not sure if you have everything that needs to be truly successful with that, why don't you come over to readytoperform.com? We have a free discovery session. I can tell you right away, give you some info nuggets, and we have just a session where we discover the power of Ready to Perform and what we do over here by analyzing strategically, placing it in an effective order, and working with all our focus to kind of relentlessly improve the quality of the product. So hit me up for the free discovery session, whatever it is that you have in mind, right? Creatively, like I said, if you want to work on your art skills, if you want to get into the acting industry, if you want to start taking acting classes, if you have, the need for better public speaking skills, you want to really stand out, communicate to your team in a successful, impactful way, have the recognition of your voice, understanding how powerful you are as a communicator. Maybe you've missed out on a lot of chances so far, and you're kind of frustrated that people are still not enticed by your ideas, even your ideas are great. This is also a great opportunity to kind of sharpen your toolbox and get a new asset into your system that will help you to be more impactful as a creator, as a performer, as an artist in this beautiful day and age. So definitely hit us up for the discovery session. A great opportunity to do that. And if we're a good match for each other, let's start the adventure. Thank you for this little break for this public service announcement. Ding! Let's get back to the topic, shall we? I don't know what I said there, right there, but yeah, it sounded like English. So in certain cities and countries, art has a prominent place in their DNA and history, thus a strong interest in support and public opinion for the arts. This results in a historical tradition and behavior of visiting and collecting art that comes naturally to the city's inhabitants, but also efforts from the city itself to actively support artistic communities. Think of organizing open calls for public art or art prizes, providing artist residencies to nurture their artists, offering grants and stipends to support them, financially exhibiting or acquiring work from local artists with the city museum, and much more. So benefits of living in an art city, it means that you have more collectors. The drawbacks of living in an art city is that you have a high competitive and artistic environment, which to me is not a drawback. It's just an opportunity of getting better. It's just an opportunity of understanding that you have to, kind of scale up your game. Sun Tzu said in The Art of War that you have to conquer a foreign territory in order to truly conquer your own territory. And there is a lot of truth to that, because once you figured out how a different system works, right? Once you adapted and you successfully took over something, you made it your own, then you will not have a problem improving the one that you called your own territory in the first place. Because sometimes by doing that, just going out of our comfort zone, maybe living in a couple of years abroad or somewhere else, kind of, adapting to that situation, that kind of gives us the strength, that second skin, that thicker layer in order to succeed in our own premise, right? Because sometimes we have that. The prophet is not appreciated in its own country. He has first to kind of preach in a different country, get famous there, maybe nailed to the cross, resurrect, ascend to heavens, come back down, and then bada boom, you conquer your original country. No pun intended, this little religious, X-course here, but it's just to make a point. It's true. It helps you as an athlete. For example, you play in a team, you go to another town or even to another country, assess yourself in a completely different environment, understanding how you function there. It gives you so much feedback that you wouldn't get where you usually are, because you're used to the automatisms, you're used to the routine. That's why it's called routine. You have everything set up, it works. There is no new experience pretty much that you can make. It's just the repetition. And going somewhere else, that kind of fires up our mental attic, right? Our neurons, our synaptic connections, because all of a sudden we have to adapt to new situations. Guess what? That makes us just smarter, right? Kind of understanding that helps us also to kind of push through dry moments, understanding, hey, what I'm doing ultimately will just make me smarter. It will just make me better. It will just improve my mental capacity, my cognitive adaptability, and also understanding that I think what the great mystery of art is, that once you're confident, once you don't care anymore, once it's just for the love of expressing yourself, and you detach yourself from the necessity of being acknowledged all the time, or selling this and that amount in order to be happy, once you reach that, and it's not a thing of like, oh, I'm spiritual, oh, I reached the ultimate nirvana realm of self-deprivation, I can denigrate any. No, it's not about the earthly. Of course there is still a materialistic drive to the game. What I mean is that for the art itself, once you reach that, I find it always interesting to see that people that have that ultimate confidence, they are selling way better than all the people that maybe have even a superior product, but are needy in their approach and their attempt of kind of selling whatever they have. I just to give you an example of what I mean is, I was at this gallery. I think it was in Naples. Yes, it was in Naples. Beautiful gallery. And huge stuff. They had Miros, they had Dalis, they had some really good pieces. So we're talking about an expensive gallery. And like 20 years ago, if I would have walked in a gallery like that, and of course also with the idea maybe to pitch them my art, I don't know, I would have been very nervous, very insecure, and I would have tried to kind of, I don't know, impress, right, the gallery owner with something, and being not really myself. Probably this is what I want to say. Now this time I went into the gallery. We were relaxed. We had great lunch, and everything was like. No, it was actually before lunch, so it's very curious that even before lunch I was in a good mood. No, but seriously, we went it was a beautiful day. Naples is an amazing town. We love the west coast of Florida. And we just went in, and I just had a conversation. I just had a realistic, truthful, authentic conversation with the gallery manager at the time who was there. I was telling him what I found interesting about art, what he kind of brings to the game, and then he was telling me about his vision of art, and we were just looking at the pictures, telling where I was coming from. And in the end, after this 20-minute long conversation, very relaxed, very confident, very poised, of course I was kind of playing with the thought, but I was just really not caring. I was just really there, enjoying the art, taking my time out, enjoying this day off, and just being surrounded by art is always inspiration. I was already grateful for being there. There was no need for me to upsell the event to myself. But even though in the end I said, hey, and by the way, I'm an artist, and it's like, oh yeah, the manager that day, he said, oh yeah, it's no wonder. It's like, yeah, what do you do? And I'm just like, this is the art that I created. Sounds intriguing. Can I send you some art over? Can I send you my portfolio? Would you be interested? Oh yes, definitely, absolutely. Make sure to include this and that. And he was super friendly, and then he gave me his business card, and bada boom. I had the opportunity to send over my material, which so far I haven't done because I want to create some more new stuff and kind of mixing it with the old stuff. It's a very good excuse, I know. No, but seriously, I don't want to, give someone to a gallery that is running a gallery over here something that I've created over there in Europe. I want to bring him my new perspective and new sensations, and that's why I haven't done it so far. But I definitely, I kind of, created my first lead just out of the conversation, just of being there in this place, and grateful already for being part of the art world and not in the need of selling anything, of performing or impressing, or beating up the place and making a great show out of it. It was just a very powerful, authentic, very inspiring conversation that was based on each other's love and passion for art, nothing else, and it was nurtured by it, and therefore it already kind of transpired that I'm part of this play. I didn't need to kind of emphasize it or sell it to him. And this is, I think, what most artists get wrong, especially in the beginning, or well, at least to me it was the factor that I always wanted to prove and to demonstrate and to impress when I was a bit younger. Now it's like, hey, I'm part of this for so much time now. Of course, time helps you to kind of realize that. But even if you just, kind of joined the arts game, right? Even if you're here just for just not for a long time, you already made that conscious, venturous, courageous step. You already kind of said, all right, I enter this universe. So you're already part of it. You don't need to sell someone who's in that universe that you are. No, he already knows. And then, of course, the art that you present is always led by the context, by the time, by what's right now being asked, what's trendy and all that. There are many factors that come into place why your art gets picked or not. This happens also to actors when they shoot their self-tapes, they send in material. Maybe it's a great self-tape, but there are so many factors that come in to decide whether or not you're getting the call back, or you could be considered for a chemistry read, or being hired for the role, booking that role. That hasn't not necessarily always something to do with your talent. So enjoy the ride. I guess this is what I want to say. So there are a few drawbacks as well when it comes to living in a major art city. Sure, more collectors, more galleries, but even more artists, hence a highly competitive field. Again, I feel that's more like an advantage. It's not really a down. I mean, it's just the mindset, how you're approaching this. Are you scared from the fact that there is a universe with a thriving, with a lot of thriving organisms, or do you want to enter a universe that is empty, where there is nothing? Of course, you want to go there where, of course, it kind of thrives, and where a lot of competition is naturally being formed, but it's not competition. It's everybody's just presenting his piece, right? So I think it's more of an advantage because you can learn so much by observing. You can get better. Oh, and that competitive edge. We're always competing. What's the problem with competing? Even with actors, I say this all the time when it's about shooting their self tapes, and it's like, and I ask, hey, why is this scene boring so far? And it's like, oh, I don't know. It's just, no, it's not. You're not competing with the other character. Yeah, why should I compete? Right? It's like, oh, this other character, he's below me, right? It's like, he has nothing to do. You are always competing. When we're in the room with somebody, we check him out. Like, even if we don't know that one, oh, he's cooler sneakers than I got, or he, his hair looks, or he has more hair, or he looks fantastic, right? We're always competing, even with people we don't know. So competition is something that drives us forward, that makes us come up with new ideas, and that helps us to develop that tunnel focus, where you just think of improving because of the pressure that you are perceiving. So therefore, again, to me, this is all an advantage. Does that mean that it is always healthy to being exposed to this environment nonstop, 24/7? Of course not. If you exaggerate, if the pendulum swings too much into the extremes and being too much absorbed about, all that of course can, derail you from your original track, and it shouldn't be. It's always about a healthy mixture. I mean, of course, you need also silence, contemplation, meditation, and kind of retraction. But then you need also expansion, and contraposition and juxtaposition, and understanding that there's so much vibrancy and you're part of that vibrancy. You shouldn't see it as a competitor. It's just an addition to your energetic field, to your understanding that you're part of an art universe. You want people to be in that universe as well. So it's a thriving and living universe. Otherwise it's stagnant. If you want to live in a big city, you will have to accept the high living costs and the low comfort you get in return for your money. Therefore, please keep these drawbacks in mind before deciding to moving to a major art city. In the upcoming recital of the world's best art gallery, we'll take into account the living costs, ranging from affordable to normal to expensive, but also include the population to have an idea of the sales market, discuss the art education opportunities, famous artists born in or living and working in the city in question, which renowned institutions the city has, and also how many great galleries are hosted in the city. In the case of the latter, we use the analytical research tool of artifacts ranking art galleries based on objective data and facts. Think of the artists they represent, the talents they have discovered, participation in international art fairs, their exhibition program, and much more. The first 5 are ranked as the biggest art cities in the world, followed by an alphabetical recital of the best medium-sized art cities from A to Z. Please note, bada boom, bada bum. Okay. So, the big 5 mega art cities. Number 1, New York, United States. It has the number of top 100 art galleries. 30 top 100 art galleries are located in New York. I don't know if this is just for the US. I think it is for the world. So yes, of all the top 100 art galleries, New York hosts 30 of them. So this is an impressive number. Over 8.4 million people living there, of course. That means a lot of artists participating. The Education School of Visual Arts and Pratt Institute, I think this is the most prominent that they kind of highlight here. Famous artists, Jeff Koons, Cindy Sherman, art institutions, Museum of Modern Art, the MoMA. It is important to kind of state here, the studies have shown that 34% of all art galleries are located in the United States. So that's really an incredible number, followed by 12% in Germany and 10% in the United Kingdom. So the United Kingdom and Germany together don't have even, they don't even come close to the market share that we have over here in terms of art galleries. So already being in the US is a significant, boost to your art career. A similar tendency can be found in global art market share by value, with 45% of the value of all transactions in 2022 taking place in the United States of America, followed by 18% in the United Kingdom, 17% in China, which is quite impressive. They, of course, ramping up as well. They are buying a lot. That's true. And 7% in France. Beijing, by the way, we're going to explore. Beijing is an important town, guys. Shanghai is an important town. Hong Kong is a thriving town. There's a lot of money to be made in China as well. And they're buying a lot. They're creating a lot. They're building a lot. Of course, they have their inflation. They have their problems and devaluation of the currency, all that. They have that too. But China is there, and they want to establish themselves as a long-term global, superpower. So therefore, art definitely helps you to kind of, underlining the importance of your status. For artists, the primary market is the most important, with galleries being the direct intermediary between the artist and the first sale. When it comes to most galleries per city, 6% of all art galleries are based in New York City, 5 are in London, 4 can be found in Berlin, 3% are located in Paris, and to conclude, another 3% are situated in Los Angeles, resulting in the following top 5. So New York being the number 1 spot, London occupying the second spot. 10 of the top 100 art galleries are based in London. Even more inhabitants than population is even bigger than New York. It's super expensive. And we have the Royal College of Art and Slate as one of the most famous representative of their education, famous artists, Damien Hirst and Tracy Emin, Art Institution, the Tate Modern and British Museum, of course. I have to say, I was in London there, and I was, of course, impressed by their museums. It's incredible. I've had incredible, afternoons there. It was just amazing. John Doe, I used to play street chess in the city. The shifting dynamics of the city, daylight tours and sunlit squares, nightfall shadows and silent moves. That's fantastic. That's like a poetry in itself, John. Great. Hey, Pat. Healthy competition. Yeah, healthy. I mean, what is healthy, right? It's hi everybody. Hey Pat, great to have you here. Thanks so much for joining. Sorry for acknowledging that a bit late. I was in my reading rant. I wasn't paying attention to accounts for a second. I'm sorry for that. What was definitely interesting about London, again, as you can see here, London doesn't always look like this, right? But the fact that you have this big contrast of these incredible high rises and great skyscrapers that they built there, and the old Gothical, Victorian, English style that is also a nice contrast. You have a lot of those great sites that are in a reasonable amount of space located, so you don't need that much time. But of course, to commute in London, if you're living in the outer rims and the outer rings of London, is really, you have to get used to the tube, it's very packed, it's very intense. It's even more like the subway in London is really a number in itself. And it gives us the idea that artists, galleries, representation, collectors, and auctions are, of course, Sotheby's, Christie's, you name it, these great auction houses that are also located in New York and London. I feel like London and New York, they are like twin towns in a way. They are like, the cousin, the big cousin, and the younger cousin. In terms also of how the trends, are being, played back and forth from London to New York, and artists kind of living in both cities. I don't like, this is my impression. I feel like London has a bit lost of its originality in terms of how it used to be, but of course, it's a super influential town because you have offshore banks, you have a lot of capital that wants to invest in art. This is also something important to definitely consider. I know artists don't like to hear that, and this was something also that I had to kind of, understand and kind of take in. Yes, art needs to be bought, guys. And you need money to buy art. And so where is the money? And if like Gaius, Julius, Augustus, Octavianus, Caesar told us, right, follow the path of money and you will most likely get the one who's guilty of the crime. And of course, expensive art galleries. We've seen this here in South Florida as well. You go to West Palm Beach, that's a super expensive, it's a super rich town. Naples is a super rich town. Boca Raton, super rich town. And these towns, they buy art, there, Miami, pretty wealthy town. And these towns, they buy art. So yes, we need to go there in order to sell, to higher paying, tickets. And I know this sounds like, but yeah, I want art and idealism and beauty and discovery and development and all that, but it needs to be sold. In America, we don't have that problem that much because of capitalism and just the natural connection to money and to the flow of commerce. In Europe, it still is to many people to kind of, get acquainted to that thought and feeling comfortable about promoting, marketing, and selling art, and being also close to these financial institutions. So for painters, it can be interested to be displayed in banks, right? Even if it's just, it feels like the spiritual enemy, but yeah, these great high rises that are being bought by banks and insurance companies, and when they have also their events, and they love to be surrounded by great art. It makes them important. It kind of underlines their status. It's also a form of investment and speculation. So yeah, you should look out for these institutions, for their events, how to get into their foundations. They have grants, they have all sorts of
also possibilities of kind of supporting you. And it's interesting that and somehow the artist is always doomed to look out for what he's actually the least searching in the beginning of his endeavor, I guess, because a true artist doesn't make art for the sake of money, right? It's just that beautiful liquidity that comes in and that just allows you to do a lot of beautiful stuff and a lot of crazy, amazing stuff. And you want to do that. So therefore it is important to our system, and it gives us prosperity and also tranquility and ease of mind. And so therefore the ability to, also think about our art more in a quiet, calm place and not always being, forced to produce in order to make money. On the third place, we have Berlin. I lived in Berlin for 4 years. It's definitely a town with a lot of galleries. It's not as cheap as it used to be in the 90s. And even in the beginning of 2000, it was still a quite affordable town. Now it has become more and more expensive to live there. Unfortunately, you have great art galleries. You have great museums. What we see here is the Museums Island right here. It's an incredible place. This is the Pergamon Museum. This is the German Museum, and there is, I think this is the Pergamon, and this is the Institute of Art. So you have like this whole island here in the heart. It's close to Alexanderplatz, as you can see. Let me just blow this up, right? This is the Tower of Alexanderplatz, which is the Alexander Square in the eastern part of Berlin, which is actually the cool part. And then you have here the Museum Island. Incredible art that you can find just on this little, kind of piece of land in the middle of the Spree, the river that kind of flows through Berlin. I've been there for 4 years. I wasn't that successful but that definitely has also other reasons there. But what I definitely felt in Berlin, if you're thinking of moving there, because it's a bit less expensive than New York and London, and it has definitely more openness to it. It's not as packed, as hectic, as exhilarating, but still very inspiring. Berlin has definitely some beautiful corners, stuff that really kind of, that plays to your eye. Great, like the community there is actually great. You can go out, you have beautiful daytime cafes if the weather is good. New York, London is really, I think, the worst in terms of weather. It's really frustrating to be surrounded by fog and rain the whole time, right? At a certain point it plays on your mood. Berlin is a little bit better in the summertime. It's really, really cool. Of course the weather is not perfect there, but it's definitely doable. But it's cold. It's Germany, guys. It's right up there in the north, but definitely a town that is a great alternative. I think one of the reasons why Berlin has always been so popular on the world scope in terms of creativity and art, because compared to the other towns, Paris, London, New York, Tokyo, it's just cheaper. It's just cheaper to live there. And for artists, this is definitely a reason. And of course, Die Brücke, the Expressionists, Bauhaus. Bauhaus is not from Berlin, but German culture and art has been super influential, for centuries and so there's definitely a lot to learn from this town. There's a lot of inspiration there, a lot of great art to see, great nightlife. It's interesting quarters, interesting areas that are all different, a bit more expensive one, a bit more rundown areas, but still everything is kind of vibrant, and Germany is a pretty safe place. Definitely Berlin is not a bad town to be an artist in. Paris, here it is on number 4. It has more galleries that are in the top 100 than Berlin, but it has less population. And also the reason being more expensive than the Berlin definitely gives it a little bit, of a downgrade. Respectfully to this hit list here, we have Los Angeles on the number 5 spot. It is expensive. It has 4 of the top 100 art galleries. It has a population of over 3.8 million, but you have these great facilities like the UCLA School of Arts and Architecture and Cal Arts, famous artists Ed Ruscha and Paul McCarthy, the Getty Center and LACMA, great places. You can see some decent art in Los Angeles. But guys, I mean, I was born in Europe. I lived there for for 30 years, and I can tell you, I mean, it's just crazy the amount of art that you can see in Europe in museums wherever you go. If it's Budapest, if it's Prague, if it's Berlin, if it's Munich, Milan, Rome, of course. I mean, it's just amazing. You don't find that over here. It's just not happening. You have great museums all over the place in the US, but I feel the only museums that are really like worth, I'm sorry to say it, they are in Chicago and New York. And yes, of course, the Getty is impressive to go, but in terms of like real art that is impressive to watch, it's just New York and Chicago, guys. So far, that is definitely we have to admit that. And otherwise, you have to fly to Europe in order to see the real like great like density of astonishing art. You have to go there in order to do that. So monuments, art galleries, rich collectors, banks, money, but also the culture, of course. The culture is definitely what creates those environments, what makes them fertile, right? What gives impulses. And why are cities? I mean, why are they creative in the first place? So yes, you have all these institutions that definitely attract people that are teaching, that are communicating, that are part of the of the scheme of the universe, but that are in this culture. But culture, like this article here on smartcitiesdive.com, if you look, for example, to what has happened here in Florida, the rise of Miami and the South Florida, art culture that has been growing quite steadily in the last couple of years. One form of cultural instrumentalization is represented by Richard Florida's creative class model, which positions the creative city as a place marketing strategy. So culture becomes merely a means to non-cultural ends, as entrepreneurial city leaders favor short-term economic growth over long-term activation of cultural assets. So creativity and cultural production become secondary in this narrative. That's true, right? You have narratives where it's just about the volume that you create. You can, take profit from that, but then you can also move, and it's not about creating a long-term legacy there. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't. Of course, it still contributes to the growth that is created around art in that context. So, if you have social cohesion, if you have creativity and cultural production, if you have people that are understanding also the creative industries and kind of catering to them in an effective way, we have that intersection where art becomes commerce, and commerce in a way reflects that art. It highly influences that art, but in itself, it gets influenced by the art. So therefore, it represents what the art likes to convey, but in a marketing sense. And so Wynwood is a perfect example for that. If you go to Miami, you see that, that formula being played out. Not perfectly. Of course, there's always room for improvement, but it's quite nice how it is set. So you have an area that is surrounded, that is embedded in art, and that displays that art also in a local museum where it sells from these local artists that then, of course, influence the marketing that is created by the brands that want to have their shops there, which then, of course, attracts customers, but also new investors, and of course, also new artists that, want to take advantage of that, spontaneous, quite rapid and short-term growth. That taking advantage of these, of these trends that are being played out in different cities, I don't think that's a negative thing. I think that's just what smart artists do. I mean, it's normal for an artist to say, hey, this town has kind of lost its cycle or has finished somehow its cycle. I feel there is nothing new, or no new impulses are coming. Let me go somewhere else. Let's commercialize somewhere else for a while, and then let's dive into, the act of the exploration, because I need to make money, of course, as well, to be, safe on the other hand, but also involved by, a collective that is looking for artists to put into their commercial streams. So I think art can benefit from the commerce in a way, if you're doing it, of course, in the right way. If you are, you know, part of a collective that is there to demonstrate its value, stay there for the while it's been playing out, and you know, deliver the best product, and then move on to the next town, to the next trend, to the next gallery, to the next new hub, or move somewhere completely else. This is somehow also the life the digital age requires from us. Why we can't really complain about that type of development if we are fostering this development constantly, right? We are always here on our smartphones. We're always ordering stuff. We always wanted to have it more comfortable, faster, more safe. And so this is what this development brings, because in that, by doing so, our behavior really just, you know, kind of, it just helps that fluctuation to become stronger and bigger and faster. And therefore we will see more and more like these commercial, cultural trends popping up, living for a while, and then kind of dying off, and then the next one. That's why we have pop-up stores, and we have ever-changing marketing campaigns, and every year we have a new iPhone. That's the downside of that, for sure. If we want legacy, long-term development, and cultural like entrenchment with the cultural soil, right? So where we really have a long-term connection of the artist and you know, the context he's in, then, you know, we need to, of course, as a culture as well, like ask ourselves, it doesn't need to be always faster, always quicker, or can I just, you know, for a while kind of, you know, hit pause on that fast track program that society has become, and kind of, you know, detach myself a little bit from that stream and just develop something a little bit more for myself, and kind of, you know, being one of those signal givers to other, you know, creative communities that can be done. And so therefore kind of fostering that type of behavior and that development in a cultural way with your respective, you know, artistic colleagues. And I think it can be done. It is always been shown. The problem is at a certain point when, let's say, Winwood is a good example, right? Because when too much capital takes over, or let's say also Burning Man, you have those great, you know, festivals like the Love Parade in Europe as well, that start actually quite spontaneously in a crazy way, where it's all about the movement, it's all about dancing and just having fun. And you don't see sponsors that much in the beginning. You don't see money flowing that much, but you see people having a great time and really enjoying themselves. And the more money, the more advertising, the more commerce comes in, the more it loses its soul, its spirit, and its original character. It kind of attracts, of course, way more people. There is a short-term kind of revenue flip that can be made, but you sacrifice a little bit of its spirit, of its originality. So there's always a compromise that needs to be made. Ultimately, I don't think that this is a development that can't be stopped. It can't be just slowed down. There will always be this natural oscillation that at a certain point a trend eats itself, that at a certain style dies off, that a certain piece of art is not appreciated anymore, and then you have to kind of reinvent and restart and kind of, you know, regenerate and a new cycle, something that kind of again will you know, work ahead of its time. No, it's okay, man, Vincinger, don't worry. Oh, Countercast, of course. Oh man, we should stop. Like, I'm sorry. Yes, you always have to decide. Oh, it's so painful. I know. So, but thank you so much for stopping by, man. So we split the views. I'm glad to split the views with Words of Paradise. Does it make sense? So it's not just us that we need to understand our craft and develop and be beautiful artists. That's, of course, that's the reason we're doing this. But hey, guys, we need to come to the conclusion that whether we want to live off of that and start complaining, and if we want that, then we have to understand these creative industries and work alongside them and understanding their rhythm and picking up on them. For example, Fashion Week used to be, you know, longer in Milan for for decades than it is right now, and it changed the program, has condensed the program. Now it's just for a couple of days. That means less creators, less fashion items, less producers will be there, and it will be highly stressful and condensed. And it got longer in Rio, so a lot of fashion designers from Italy moved to Brazil because of a similar climate and beautiful people there, and because now they're getting more exposure to Fashion Week, and now they want to, you know, create their garments down there, because this is how they feel they can tip off their career quicker. So all these shifts, you know, they happen, they're part of us, and understanding these creative industries, you know, kind of helps us also predict the market and adapt to it. So it's not necessarily always something negative. I know it costs, you know, decisively it costs energy, but it will always cost energy. Whether you stay at home or you do it somewhere else, it will always cost energy to create something remarkable and sell it. Creative city policymakers should not rely on the given categories of the cultural industries, for example, fashion, media, and fine art. They should instead operationalize interdisciplinary work to broaden cross-sector growth possibilities and an understanding of the needs of the creative industries in other business sectors. This would stimulating new cultural content and non-normative approaches to urban problems, for example. So, what are the alternatives to, of course, the trend, the great culture, the mass culture? The creative industries are often praised as the savior of urban economies, despite being precarious sectors with little long-term employment and revenue stabilities. Yes, stability, and we have highlighted that. Sure, policymakers need to assess whether their urban strategy requires cultural resources or if there are alternatives in solving urban problems. For example, tax credits. Just provide tax credits for the people that just want to have that short-term exposure to capital in your town. They make sure to hire local talent and therefore give economic growth even to smaller sectors. They take the profit and then they go out and both win out of the situation. So these are the guidelines for urban design, creating creativity at the heart of cities. And creativity, right, is this factor that we have the chance to produce something that is, it's our product. And if we want to produce something, we have to kind of take into account that it must be sold through the various channels. Now, of course, you can open up a Shopify account. You can inform yourself or get someone on Fiverr and produce something print on demand. And this is how you set up like an income stream. And therefore, you already have something you can work on, rely on, and develop for yourself. Then maybe through video, like a marketing strategy around the rest of your art. And start producing and kind of, you know, gaining more and more confidence, more and more growth, more and more sales until you're economically independent and you can just solely rely on that and focus on that. That is one way to do it. There's the way also, if you are saying, okay, if I can live as a digital nomad and I don't need to be exposed to these environments anymore, or I just don't want to because you know, artists sometimes they just want to really, they don't want to play this game of networking, of, you know, PR and marketing themselves and all that. They just want to have their peace of mind, have a stable revenue out of that. And that is fine as well. If you're not looking for the big numbers and just stability and be able to create, develop, and have complete, you know, control or freedom over, you know, the way you're creating your art, that is an amazing result as well. How many artists do you think there are out there who can say that for themselves? So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to play the game and get lost in the game just because everybody else plays it, right? And eventually gets, sometimes loses it also. It's, you know, it's your game. Whether that happens in a big city, whether that happens with a big gallery, or whether that happens online or as a mixed studio hybrid type of creation that you sort of, you know, put up. I mean, the COACHMC studio is a good example for that. I feel like, of course, we have our physical address. People can come into the studio down here. We can create in South Beach. It's beautiful, but we are also online. We are also active with all the other creators that we sometimes never get to see like live in real person. And that just goes to show that ideas spread everywhere. Ideas are always welcome. Quality art is always welcome. And it's the combination of how you want to kind of knowing what you want to earn, how much you want to invest in terms of time and effort, and being completely satisfied also with a more modest kind of approach to what the goals of life should be in terms of how you want to live, how much you want to spend, and what you want to own. And that's okay too. I'm not saying you shouldn't own anything and be happy. I'm not a World Economic Forum fan. I'm just saying that sometimes we get blinded by targets, goals, and accolades that don't really represent us. Here's an example of what I mean. So here we have a very interesting and beautiful story about rural creativity boost, guide to artistic community dev. So why rural creativity matters, how to identify potential artistic community assets, establishing an artistic community in a rural setting, how to promote rural creativity. This is a blog by daisy.com, and it has many interesting ideas why, you can be also a very successful, and how also to be a successful creator in the rural setting, where you don't necessarily have to be part of a crazy town that drains your energy and where you lose your focus and your artistic compass. Here we have another article that is also very interesting, and this is about creativity on the countryside.com. And we have here on the journal today is Katrina Rodabow, a slow fashion and sustainability warrior. Okay, sounds like an activist, but here's out here. We talked to her about her latest book, Mending Matters, Stitch, Patch, and Repair, Your Favorite Denim, and more. She kindly sends us a copy for a review, which we'll share with you, bada boom, bada bum. And this lady here, she's a sustainable fashion designer on the countryside. She repairs old denim, kind of, pimps it up, kind of inserts these new elements to it and resells them online, working with these very toned down fabrics, non-aggressive fabrics. Of course, this is just, not everybody's style, but it just goes to, just to show that, again, creativity, marketing, and commerce, they go hand in hand. And once you understand what leverage you actually have as a creator, it's not a matter of finding your purpose and finding the ultimate style or whatever. It's really kind of understanding the working process. That is the art in itself. Finding art that sells means that is an art in itself. That makes us creative. You need to come up with the solution, the ideas, create networks, convince people, pay workers, employees, and kind of put all this together. That is the art. Create that, and then invest in the deeper exploration. That could be a very good model as well. So Mending Matters was the result of launching a personal art project, Make Thrift Mend, in August 2013. I launched the project just months after the Rana Plaza garment factory collapse in Dhaka, Bangladesh in April 2013, killing over 1,100 people. After the collapse, I decided I wouldn't buy new clothing for 1 year. Instead, I'd focus on making simple garments by hand, supporting thrift stores and secondhand shops, and mending what I already owned. Interesting. So soon after mending my clothing, a friend asked me to teach my first mending workshop at a fabric store where she worked. It sold out quickly, much to my surprise. I offered a second workshop, and that sold out quickly too. That's when I realized people were eager to learn repair work. That was 5 years ago, and I've been focusing on sustainable fashion ever since. Mending Matters is the culmination of teaching mending to thousands of students and wanting to have a way to teach people all over the world. The book allows folks to learn my techniques from their homes instead of traveling to my workshops. So this lady here created a little empire out of mending, repairing stuff, thrift store materials, because she was inspired by this, inspired in a very shocking way by this incredible incident in 2013, where this huge sweatshop collapsed and 1,100 people were killed. And ultimately that gave her the impulse to kind of look out for a more sustainable, slow, less aggressive way of creating fashion that is interesting and already teaching that, her idea was also to give people, you know, a tool. Again, it was about the collaboration of the collective and giving them an yeah, like some sort of an idea how they can turn, you know, their talent into a little business, into an industry, teaching them how to repair, how to produce, to sell. And that already, that marketing workshop in itself was sold out. And of course the fashion sold. So it goes to show that if you have that in mind, you want to create art, you want to sell though, but you want to also be surrounded by an environment that is less aggressive, less competitive, and less toxic. Also, like sometimes these super metropolis arts environments can definitely be. Then this could be definitely, you know, this is definitely a one good lesson that we can get out of that. One good inspiration, one good idea is even in rural environments on the countryside, there are ways of creating something that is hip, that is interesting, that is influential, and make money with it, and kind of, you know, performing your art ultimately. This is one of many examples of what can be done also outside of these big areas. One of many ideas that people can get out of what creativity can do. You can help people to come together to produce, and by that creating a hub on the countryside. We had a yoga teacher once that during the so-called pandemic, she was, you know, kind of stripped off her place, and she thought, hey, I'm starting doing these online lessons, and then when, you know, when the restrictions are lowered or kind of completely abandoned, then what I will do is I will, you know, singly go to all these people that I taught online on the countryside where I am, and she's outside of a bigger town called Stuttgart, and kind of visit them singularly. And she started doing that, and then of course they rented out places in all these different villages, and a lot of people that all came in that were kind of, hey, there is this yoga teacher, he's coming over, and why don't we just book a group class? And that's what they did. And now she has like all these little group classes. Of course, she has to drive to them, and kind of that's an effort in itself, commute, but it's on the countryside. It's slow and calm traffic. She has the chance to see a lot of people, and she's really a connector with your yoga class more than anything else. And then I told her, hey, you know what you should do is bring some exclusive tea to these classes. And now she's telling, you know, she was trying to sell these tea bags, and they had like these tea, you know, rituals after the yoga session that led to kind of, you know, a bit more longer evenings, and it has become like an event in itself. And so you never know, you know, whether you're in or out the metropolis, where your creativity can lead you, what you can do with it, and how much it can inspire also the people around you. So never give up on that. Never think that, just because you're not in a big hub, that means that you shouldn't create, that you can't be able. Of course, video is a powerful tool, but you see also in these hands-on, very tangible examples that there is a lot of stuff that you can do also outside the screen that is truly helpful and can make you also feel more fulfilled about your art. Yes, every small town, Pat says, has an artistic community. But yes, maybe a few less options if you want to make a career out of it. Yeah, but again, what is a career? Like, there is this other, what's the name? It's a very famous art school in California as well. It's Atelier. Will Atelier? I think his name is William Atelier. It's there for 30 years now. It's in California. I forgot the name right now. It's a small art school that is but one of the best in the world. It's like a one-stop shop type of art school. You can stay there it's like one big room, and he teaches you everything. And so many great artists are being forged there. And it's an inspirational hub, even though it's a bit, you know, off the usual lanes of high ticket traffic. And again, also not everybody not everybody's born to play the networking game in the big cities and drive around, present, and kind of, you know, connect and going to galleries and submit and all that, right? It's a good way to test yourself. It's definitely a great way to improve your skills and everything. But at a certain point, you also have to realize whether or not you're good at it, if it's really your thing to do, or if you're not bit more of a calmer mind and a little bit more of a relaxed type, and maybe you drain yourself out there of playing something that is really not you, instead of focusing and investing in your art. And so therefore you always should keep that in mind for yourself. Be honest to yourself, really truthful. Is this really working out? Am I really good, or do I want to improve here, or is this not my world, and should I find another way? Because if you feel uncomfortable, even if yes, it's a great competitive field, there's a lot of money, but if you completely feel out of place and uncomfortable, people notice that, and if you lose your confidence there, then you won't sell anyway. So maybe it's better to kind of define what is success. Like, to know exactly, hey, it's not about the sales number in itself. It's just be able to have that income, to have a stable life, to just be a producer of my art and have control over my environment. That is already enough for me. That is already success. I don't need incredible numbers in order to be truly happy. So knowing that and assessing accordingly, where you should be located also, and where you should kind of start your endeavors, and kind of invest there, that is definitely part also of a successful career, if you want to call it so, right? We have in Italy, for example, if you go to southern Italy, you have a lot of small towns on the beach side, that have like high season for 4 months, I would say. End of June, it kind of starts. And then we have June, July, August, September. And then by the end of September, it kind of slows down. But also fancy places, of course, like Capri, Ischia, small, but very fancy, where, for 4 months, 5 months during the year, there's a high chance of you selling art in these small towns. And rent is not high. You can comfortably live there. Climate is great. Food is amazing. It's a small town. It's not hectic, and you just work towards your 4 months during the year where you have the chance to, when it's high season, when just more tourists are around. But then, of course, during the winter months, you can, then maybe look for bigger galleries in the north and bigger towns, like, let's say, if we're talking about hypothetically about Italy, but the same thing would be true also for Spain. There are some Spanish towns, Greek towns. But here in the US as well, we have a lot of those coastal, beautiful towns where you have high season just for a couple of months. And during those months, you can sell a lot. And for the rest of the year, you can organize online sales, go to art fairs, a lot of other things that you can put into place in order to make revenue. So that definitely isn't... that doesn't impede you to be successful, even if you're living in a small town. Quite the opposite. Think of Cape Cod, the Hamptons, right? They are super exclusive places during high season. You have like a huge volume, right, of people that potentially, have a lot of money. So small towns can be a very interesting art hub as well. Again, it's about you knowing what success means ultimately to you, and don't get drained by that false ideal. I would say the combination of both is great. I've worked and lived in big hubs, and I still do, of course, but also the smaller places I've lived in were super inspirational to me. It's always getting the most out of. I was in Sicily for a while, and even though I was a little kid back then, that was so important in my artistic growth, to be really on the Sicilian countryside, in a small town, really small town, elementary school with my grandparents. That kind of changed and impressed me and influenced me in a way that wouldn't have happened in a bigger town. And again, also compared to the space that I now have here in the US, like how far the eye can go to the dense to the dense, compressedness of the European city, and compared to here, you have, way more space. Even if you have big metropolis, it's just the countryside here. You can get immediately to access to a lot of space, and being anonymous, right? In Europe, it's way harder to be anonymous, to have so much space for yourself, to claim like a little island of tranquility for yourself. When you have the chance to get, to exit your usual daily routines. So everything has its advantages, disadvantages. You have to kind of self-awareness here is, I think, the key, especially for artists, to know exactly what works for you, and kind of understanding yourself and the rhythm and insisting in that. I think that's truly important. Art is really based on time. The factor of insisting, creating a lot of volume, a lot of art, and continuously searching out for that improvement, and also to, you know, connected to the commercial success, because again, it's that step that we have to take. That is, I threaded, I know, because it's somehow, it feels not right to the arts endeavor as well, but you have to understand, the more you take over, the more control you have also over the marketing of your art and understanding how it markets, the less some other people are responsible about your revenue, which is always like a big recommendation to give to people. Always try to have complete control, or the most authority that you can, about where, how everything is going, because you don't want other people to be responsible about your income, right? You should be the most interested in that. And therefore, I think art can really kind of transcend boundaries and borders, and that's why it's so beautiful, it's so great, and why it gives us the ability to animate these dreams. And you see the cities that were presented with their stories, their background, their cultural environment, they are just the result of that, of the art that was created. I mean, go to the cities and see the architecture, see the ornamentation, see these colors, see all these shapes. They are the result of that, you know, constant flow of that communication. And that is so beautiful about art. And that is so beautiful about the endeavors also that we have over here at the COACHMC studio, because that's our quest, right? To make artists better, to help them to perform better, to achieve higher levels of performance, and to, you know, to understand that they can, by honing their skills, can get to an extreme level of mastery, which is extremely satisfying, right? And immensely gratifying for yourself. It helps not only your wallet, it helps most importantly your psyche and your heart. You feel fulfilled by the art that you create. And we can learn from all these examples, from all these towns, and from all these different, you know, experiences that we've kind of, you know, looked upon today, that we highlighted today in today's Open Class Doodle episode 42. Tactical Doodles for Success is now coming to an end. I hope you guys enjoyed. Tomorrow you can catch me with the two crazy folks for 3 Sages in a Time Machine. Like I said, it's going to be a new light into the mysteries of our history. Please smash the like button, right, for this value proposition. Share this video with the people you love, who you deem need to see this, right? And if you need anything else in terms of coaching services, ideas for your next big upcoming audition, for your project, for your artistic, or to set up, you know, a strategy on how you want to market yourself and how you want to produce and improve, then definitely visit us on readytoperform.com. Thank you so much, Pat. It was definitely a great show. Thank you, John. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Raven Wolf. Thank you, everybody, for being here, also on Twitter, on Facebook. Cool people, and we will continue grind this content and kind of look into the future on Monday, look into the past on Tuesday, and look to the present state, to the present current trends on Thursday. And of course on Saturday we'll be we were part of Hypnotic's great show, not host, part of the panel, of course. And let's see. Thank you, of course, John. See you tomorrow. It was a great stream, a great show. I hope you can take something out of it. And always believe in your creativity. Ultimately, that is the source of, you know, of all, everything good that will come. It's creativity. And creativity ultimately is love, because you embrace the moment. So whether you're an artist or not, creativity means that you are facing every moment with that from the standpoint of generosity, of embracing or finding the solution, implementing it, getting better at it, whatever that you do. Creativity just helps our life to be just a bit more decent, a bit more nicer, and ourselves to improve also humanly. So therefore, I wish you all the best. Good luck with that. And see you tomorrow with another episode of 3 Sages in a Time Machine. And for now, guys, I think, yes, we're ready to...